A story, a true story, posted online by my friend Meg Riley. 2 things you should know. Like any personal story I share from the pulpit, it is with permission. And Meg is not only my trusted colleague, she is a star, having held several important positions within the Unitarian Universalist Association in social justice, in governance, and she was minister of our large online congregation as well. I've edited a little for length. So as she is driving to the farmers market in Minneapolis, where she lives, in early spring, Meg muses on a conversation that she would like to have, and then, magically, it happens. She writes, "And then at the market, I was buying plants, as I do, from an old white farmer and his wife, who I have guessed to be kind of conservative, because unlike many of the other farmers, they never say they like the shirts that I wear about the things that you might expect my shirts to wear." And I'll tell you that besides being a liberal minister, Meg is a lesbian and the mother of a non-binary person, so you can imagine. So I said to the guy, "How are you? Did you have a good winter?" expecting him to reply superficially. He said, "I'm fine," but with a totally miserable look on his face. So I said, "Well, you say fine, but you don't look fine at all. Are you okay?" And he said, "It's politics. I feel betrayed, like I don't have a country anymore." And he went on about the war in Iran and the cost of gas and groceries, and then he segued into all the lying. And as I'd imagined, I listened for a good long while, and then I tried my line. The lie that upsets me the most, that he tells, is that we are not compassionate, that we are cruel. I don't think that's who people really are. And man, it opened a new door. He told me that his neighbor out in the Minnesota countryside was snatched by ICE, such a great neighbor, so kind, so generous, and that he felt helpless about it. And it happened so fast he didn't know what to do, but now the family is suffering. And then he followed me around while I bought plants, and he talked, and I kind of felt ready to go home. But he didn't. So I finally bought my plants, and he said, "Thank you. I really didn't have anybody to talk to about this." So that's the heart of the sermon. You can go home if you want. Or you could stay for the music, or we could just unpack it a little. Hope, healing, and humility. This sermon began when a Whitehorse Village neighbor, I live in a retirement community near here, a Whitehorse Village neighbor said that the world needed more humility. Well, I was a little taken aback. That seemed like a really old-fashioned virtue, and it certainly seems to be out of favor these days. But 2 more words came to me in that conversation: hope and healing. We need them desperately, and they all seemed mysteriously entwined to me. Hope. In this time of turmoil and deep divisions, when people are being encouraged to be their worst selves, how can we hope to be a united country and a healthy democracy again? Meg acted hopefully, speaking with genuine care across that abyss, reaching out with curiosity when she might have simply accepted his words at face value and gone about her business. Healing. How do we heal those divisions? How do we nourish a healthy sense of community? How do we end, or at least diminish, the pain and the anger that are keeping us apart? Meg took profound steps towards healing, risky steps for a lesbian, for the mother of a non-binary person who is also from a different race. She reached out, she listened, she cared. And humility, that's the difficult word. Too often it means humiliation, and too often it has been used by the powerful to further squelch those who have less power, especially women and the racially and genderly marginalized. Meg acted with genuine humility, taking that risk, asking and listening rather than proclaiming and arguing, or rolling her eyes, or any of the other unsympathetic reactions she might have been tempted by. Centering the old white guy and his distress rather than her values and her certainty. And then she listened and listened and listened. So what does humility mean, and how am I using it, and why is it valuable? First, let's look at the etymology. I always do that. What lies deep in its roots? Humble is a word that goes back to Latin humus, of the earth, down to earth. Not related linguistically, but interestingly, in the Hebrew Bible, Adam also means earth, the first person, made of clay. We are all earthlings, good, basic, solid. Now we'll skip the long history of human hierarchies that turned the virtue of groundedness into the shame of lowliness, but both of these ideas, earthy and demeaned, have been around for a long time. To get a better sense of the meaning and value of humility to the people around me, I asked online, I asked in person. Two deeply related streams of thought emerged. One about not centering ourselves, acknowledging our limitations, our ordinariness, and the other, recognizing that we all have different gifts and different limitations, and that we are each precious and have much to contribute. So here are some of the answers I got. From Nancy Hopko, a Whitehorse Village colleague, a nursing educator. "It's not about me," she wrote. I asked my doctor, Guy Mo, a Buddhist from Myanmar. He said much the same. It's the other side of the Hindu idea of atta, self. If an aggressive driver cuts you off, it's on them. They are suffering from anger about something in their lives. It's not about you. Barbara Hogue-Gaydon, another UU colleague. Not special, just another bozo on the bus. Bunny Bryant, a Whitehorse Village neighbor, a teacher, a poet. Thinking I could answer that question might suggest that I'm not humble. If I quoted a line from one of my own poems, that would be worse. So I will refrain. And that word might work just as well as a definition for this moment. Kathy Edwards, another colleague, knowing you're imperfect always. Linda Noble, another nurse, a UU from Gettysburg. To me, humility is living with the acceptance that 1, I can't possibly know everything. 2, I am not always right. 3, we are all, as individuals, important and deserving of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can tell when she answered me. Luann Merkel, she's a pottery classmate, an artist. Knowing that my openness to what is happening is more important than asserting or projecting what I think I know. Jerry Frost, a retired professor at Swarthmore, a Quaker, he shared his practice. Before I read my own students' senior theses to grade them, I first reread my own. Benedictine sister Joan Chittister, in a long essay on the 12 degrees of humility, writes of our abilities. She does so, as you might expect, in theistic language, and if you need to translate, you can. One possibility is to think of the divine as the power that's fueling your best values. She writes, humility is not a rejection of God's gifts. To exaggerate the gifts we have by denying them may be as close as we can get to narcissism in life. No, humility is the admission of God's gifts to me and the acknowledgement that I have been given them for others. Elsewhere she says, certainly another word for humility is authenticity, the grace of being who we say we are. And this is how I see humility. Authenticity, integrity, to be fully yourself, to live in accordance with your best values, owning your failures and weaknesses as well as your strengths, knowing that it is usually, almost never about you, that you are not more special than others, and that you have something to contribute. It is an essential ingredient in the quest for healing. So I recommend Meg's approach to you: kindness, curiosity, humility, a hope of healing, a human and humane relationship across the abyss. Reach out to them, whoever they may be to you. I know it's not easy, at least the first time. And I know that many have heard this from me before in different forms, and maybe you're tired of it. I know that many people have been traumatized by the anger and the cruelty and the not listening and the harshness, the short-sightedness, or maybe they're just fed up. It may seem futile. I've heard it. How can they? They don't deserve another chance. I've had it. But if they can't, and we won't, how can we live? What hope do we have? How can we create a world of kindness and caring? How can we be who we say we are, who we are meant to be? Now, I'm not suggesting that you refrain from advocacy on behalf of yourself or your community or another community or the world that you hope will blossom. I'm not suggesting that you become a doormat and just go along with policies or actions or statements that are wrong or harmful. Peaceful protests, legal strategies, public statements, whistles to warn folks that ice is near, melt the ice hats. These are works of good citizenship. And maybe it was seeing those things on the nightly news that helped that old white farmer to articulate and express his sense of betrayal. By all means, speak your truth. But I am suggesting that when we interact with folks who hold different opinions, we do so with a little less certainty, a little more generosity. Must I boycott someone who is just where I was 20 years ago, or 3 years ago, or maybe last week? People evolve at different rates from their different characters and their different experiences. Can I extend some grace? Can I find common ground? Can I gently offer another way of thinking? Can I listen and try to understand? There's plenty to rage about. But can we pause? Here's Meg Riley again. May we compost our grief, our rage, and our pain into love for ourselves and one another. How do we get there? It's the great spiritual challenge of our times. Sister Joan Chittister addresses the elderly, speaking of a sense of fulfillment that comes in old age and helps us to become truly humble. But this isn't just about old people, it's a lifelong goal. It's maybe a little easier for those with what she calls the gift of years. She writes, now the passions quiet, and those old coals of wonder and insight and soul-centeredness come alive in us. Surprisingly, we come to understand that whatever we have is enough, and life itself becomes rich again. Nothing eats away at us now. Nothing drives us beyond our grasp anymore. Nothing is left to us but ourselves. And we come to realize it is enough. We are no longer at the mercy of the self. We can all strive to be no longer at the mercy of the raging self, but living out the values of the truly humble, healing self. There lies hope for ourselves, our neighbors, and a better world. So may it be. Amen, shalom, salam, and blessed be.